You wake up already carrying something you never chose, before the world even touches you. Before a single real problem presents itself, your mind is already in motion, replaying, anticipating, negotiating with ghosts. Someone's tone from yesterday, someone's opinion you never asked for, a possibility that hasn't even happened yet. You hold all of it as if it's your responsibility to solve. And that is where your power is being quietly stolen. Not in failure, not in hardship, but in the invisible habit of caring about things that were never yours to carry in the first place. This is the truth most men will never admit to themselves. They are not overwhelmed by life. They are overwhelmed by their own unnecessary investment in everything around them. You think caring makes you strong. You think it makes you aware, responsible, evolved. But what if I told you that most of what you call caring is not strength, it's exposure. It's an open gate. It's you standing in the middle of a battlefield, absorbing arrows that were never aimed at you. Niccolò Machiavelli understood something that still makes people uncomfortable centuries later. He saw that power does not belong to the man who feels the most, reacts the most, or explains the most. Power belongs to the man who decides what deserves his attention, and more importantly, what doesn't. And most men have never made that decision consciously. They react, they absorb, they engage, and in doing so, they slowly give away control of their own mind. Look closely at your daily life. Not the big moments, not the major decisions, the small ones, the passing comment that lingers for hours, the minor inconvenience that shifts your mood, the opinion online that pulls you into silent argument. These are not events, these are hooks, and every time you take one, you pay. You pay with attention, you pay with energy, you pay with focus that was meant for something real. This is how a man becomes weak without ever noticing the moment it happened, not through defeat, but through distraction, not through force, but through constant, quiet engagement with things that do not move his life forward. Machiavelli wrote, "A prince must learn how not to be good." Most people misunderstand this. They think it's about cruelty. It's not. It's about selectivity. It's about understanding that being available to everything makes you owned by everything. When you care about every opinion, you are controlled by every voice. When you react to every disruption, you are directed by every moment. The man who cannot filter what enters his mind does not have a mind of his own. He is a collection of reactions, stitched together by circumstance. And here is the part that will challenge you. The reason you care so much is not because the world demands it. It's because you are afraid of what happens if you stop. Afraid of being misunderstood, afraid of losing approval, afraid of not being seen as good, fair, or right. So you over-explain, you over-engage, you over-invest. You try to manage perception, manage outcomes, manage how people interpret you. But in doing that, you surrender the only thing that actually belongs to you, your inner stability. There is a brutal simplicity to this that most people resist. The more variables you emotionally attach yourself to, the more unstable you become. Every opinion becomes a trigger. Every outcome becomes a pressure point. Every person becomes a potential disturbance. And now your life is no longer directed by intention. It is dictated by reaction. You don't move forward. You respond sideways. You don't build. You manage. You don't act. You adjust constantly to everything around you. Machiavelli observed leaders who lost everything, not because they lacked intelligence or strength, but because they lacked control over what affected them. Their pride was provoked, their fear was triggered, their need for validation was exploited, and through those emotional entry points, they were moved like pieces on a board. This is how control works in the real world, not through force, but through influence over your reactions. If something can disturb you, it can direct you. And if it can direct you, it can control you. So the shift begins here, not with doing more, but with removing more. Not with adding discipline, but with subtracting unnecessary weight. You do not need to think more. You need to think less about the wrong things. You do not need to care more. You need to care precisely. The moment you begin to question every investment of your attention, your life starts to change. You start to see how much of your mental space has been occupied by things that have no return, no growth, no direction, just noise. Noise is the real enemy, not difficulty, not competition, not even failure. Noise, the endless stream of thoughts, reactions, opinions, and emotional residues that keep you from acting cleanly. A noisy mind hesitates, it loops, it second-guesses, it prepares endlessly, but moves rarely. And then it calls that caution. It calls that intelligence, but in reality, it is paralysis disguised as thoughtfulness. A quiet mind, on the other hand, is dangerous, not empty, but selective, not passive, but controlled. When you remove unnecessary attachments, decisions become faster, actions become sharper. You stop negotiating with yourself over things that don't matter. You see the path, and you move. Not because life became easier, but because you stopped complicating it with unnecessary internal resistance. This is where most people misunderstand detachment. They think it means not caring at all, becoming cold, becoming disconnected. That is not power. That is avoidance. Real detachment is precise engagement. It is the ability to care deeply about what matters and remain completely unaffected by what does not. It is not less feeling. It is controlled feeling, directed feeling, chosen feeling. Imagine moving through your day without absorbing every minor disruption. Imagine hearing criticism and evaluating it without emotional collapse. Imagine making decisions without needing everyone to agree. Imagine acting without waiting for the perfect emotional state. That is not fantasy. That is what happens when you stop over-caring. Your energy stops leaking, your focus stabilizes, your direction becomes clear. Machiavelli's warning is not about the world being cruel. It is about the world being indifferent. And in an indifferent world, the man who cannot govern himself will be governed by everything around him. People will pull him, situations will pull him, his own thoughts will pull him in different directions until he is exhausted, not from action, but from internal conflict. So you must decide, not once, but daily, what deserves your attention, what deserves your emotional investment, what deserves your time, and more importantly, what does not. Because every yes you give to something unworthy is a no to something that matters. Every reaction you indulge weakens your control. Every unnecessary concern adds weight to your mind. There is a discipline in ignoring that most people never develop. It feels unnatural at first because your mind is trained to respond, to engage, to solve. But not everything needs solving. Not everything needs a response. Some things need to be left alone completely, not processed, not analyzed, not revisited, just dropped. And when you begin to do this consistently, something shifts that you cannot fake. You become harder to disturb. And when you are harder to disturb, you are harder to control. People notice it. Situations lose their grip on you. The same things that used to trigger you now pass through without impact. And in that space, in that gap between stimulus and response, you regain something most men lost a long time ago. Choice. Choice is power, the ability to decide your reaction instead of being driven by it, the ability to remain steady when others expect you to break, the ability to move forward while others are stuck in loops of thought and emotion. This is not loud power. It does not announce itself. It is quiet, controlled, and extremely difficult to disrupt. But it requires something from you. It requires letting go of the identity you've built around being the one who cares about everything, the one who understands everything, the one who reacts to everything. Because that identity, as noble as it may seem, is what is keeping you trapped. You cannot become controlled while holding on to habits that create constant disturbance. So you begin small.
You notice the next time something tries to pull your attention, a comment, a thought, a minor frustration, and instead of engaging, you pause, you observe it, and you let it pass, not suppressing it, not fighting it, just not feeding it. And in that moment, you train your mind to operate differently. You show it that not everything deserves a reaction. Over time, this compounds. Your mind becomes lighter, your thinking becomes faster, your actions become cleaner. You stop living in constant reaction mode and start moving with intention. And a world, the same world that used to feel overwhelming, starts to feel manageable. Not because it changed, but because you did.
Machiavelli would tell you this plainly. If you want control, remove what interferes. If you want clarity, cut what confuses. If you want power, stop giving it away through careless attention. The man who governs his mind governs his life. And the man who cannot do that will always feel like life is happening to him instead of being directed by him. So here is the question that matters. Not whether the world is difficult, not whether people are complicated, but whether you are willing to stop carrying what was never yours. Whether you are willing to care less about what weakens you so you can care more about what builds you. Because the moment you do, everything changes. Not loudly, not instantly, but fundamentally. Your mind becomes a place of direction, not distraction. Your actions become deliberate, not reactive. Your life becomes controlled, not chaotic. And the man who reaches that point does not need to prove anything to anyone. He does not need to explain himself. He does not need to respond to every voice. He moves quietly, precisely, and with complete authority over himself. So if you felt something shift while listening to this, don't let it pass like every other insight. Lock it in. Act on it. And if you're ready to take control back from everything that has been quietly draining you, then prove it to yourself. Drop this in the comments. I choose what deserves me. And if you're serious about sharpening your mind, protecting your energy, and building real control, make sure you like, share, and subscribe, because this is only the beginning. Now ask yourself one final question. If your life feels heavy, is it really life, or is it everything you refuse to let go of?